From Mustafa Ismail's record-breaking arms that look more like a man's waist than biceps, to Greg Valentino's balloon-like muscles.
Okay, I can get him even bigger than this. I can get him even bigger.
And Sasha Spak's alien-like features. Here are 10 of the most shocking and downright bizarre-looking bodybuilders ever seen. Alvaro Pereira. Kicking off our countdown at number 10, we have Alvaro Pereira, one half of what the bodybuilding world knows as the Brazilian Hulk brothers. Now, when you hear the term Brazilian Hulk, you might think of incredible natural muscle development, but Alvaro's story is far from natural. It's a tale of synthetic enhancement that pushed his physique into truly bizarre territory.
Fui chamado lá, onde eu moro, Hulk, o gigante. Já fui chamado no local de segurança, o muralha, o armário.
Alvaro Pereira achieved what many would consider impossible, 25-inch biceps that appeared almost cartoonishly oversized compared to his frame. But here's where the story takes a dark turn. These weren't the result of years of dedicated training and natural muscle growth. Instead, Alvaro relied on a substance called Protein B12, which functions similarly to synthol, to achieve his massive arm circumference.
Você vai desenvolvendo a sua massa muscular ao tempo. Esse tipo de uso, entendeu? Dessa vitamina, esse tipo, ele dá a você o que você iria ganhar em um ano, você ganha mês. Cada mês você aumenta todo local do seu músculo.
The transformation was nothing short of dramatic. Picture this, a man whose arms grew to such proportions that they looked like they belonged on a different body entirely. The 25-inch measurement wasn't just impressive, it was medically concerning. When you consider that the average male bicep measures around 15 inches, Alvaro's arms were nearly double the size of what most men achieve through natural training. What made Alvaro's situation even more fascinating was his partnership with his brother Tony, creating a duo that became infamous in Brazilian bodybuilding circles. Together, they represented a new breed of bodybuilder, one that prioritized size over safety, appearance over authenticity, and instant gratification over the traditional bodybuilding journey of slow, methodical progress. The use of Protein B12 wasn't just about achieving size, it was about achieving a specific look that defied natural muscle development patterns. Still, Alvaro has stated that he wouldn't recommend the method to anyone.
Não encorajaria, não usava esse método jamais.
Por quê?
Porque cada princípio, cada tem uma cabeça. A cabeça, o modo de ver. E os jovens, aí eles acham que é da noite por dia. Faz o uso incorreto e o que acontece? A parte pior, se deforma.
While this is a particularly interesting insight considering that his disproportionate development became his calling card, the use of these synthetic methods for bodybuilding has become a source of significant controversy within the bodybuilding community. Tony Giraldo. Moving into number 9, we encounter Tony Giraldo, the other half of the infamous Brazilian Hulk brothers, whose story of synthetic enhancement rivals his brothers in both scope and controversy. Tony's journey into the world of extreme bodybuilding modification represents one of the most dramatic examples of how the pursuit of size can completely transform not just a person's appearance, but their entire identity.
Por ser muito magro quando era mais novo, quando era jovem, o meu ídolo que é o Arnold Schwarzenegger, começado, decidi fazer essa mudança física.
Tony achieved an astounding 28-inch bicep measurement, surpassing even his brother Alvaro's impressive 25-inch arms. But what made Tony's transformation particularly noteworthy wasn't just the sheer size. It was the method he used to achieve it, and the incredible dedication he showed to his craft, even if that craft involved dangerous synthetic enhancements.
Chegou ponto que a gente não conseguia mais crescer. E aí a gente descobriu o Potenite.
Like his brother, Tony relied heavily on Protein B12 injections to achieve his massive arm circumference. But Tony's approach was characterized by an almost obsessive level of commitment that went beyond just the chemical enhancements. He reportedly engaged in 4-hour daily workout sessions, demonstrating that even in the world of synthetic enhancement, there was still a component of traditional bodybuilding dedication involved in his transformation. The visual impact of Tony's 28-inch biceps was genuinely shocking to anyone who encountered him. When Tony flexed, his arms didn't just look muscular, they looked like they had been inflated with air, creating smooth, rounded contours that bore little resemblance to naturally developed muscle tissue.
Chegou ponto que houve crescimento muito grande e ficou impossível de fazer aplicações do suplemento.
What made Tony's story particularly fascinating was how he embraced the Brazilian Hulk moniker, turning his unusual physique into a brand and an identity. He wasn't just a bodybuilder with extremely large arms. He became a character, a living embodiment of the comic book superhero whose name he adopted. This transformation from person to persona highlighted the psychological aspects of extreme body modification and the ways in which physical changes can fundamentally alter how someone sees themselves and how they're perceived by others. Blessing Awodibu. At number 8, we shift gears to encounter Blessing Awodibu, a bodybuilder whose unusual appearance comes not from synthetic enhancements or dangerous shortcuts, but from a combination of genuinely massive natural muscle development and an absolutely unique personality that has made him one of the most entertaining figures in modern bodybuilding.
Bodybuilding is literally my life, you know? It's the only time I go to sleep. But last thing I think about, and first thing I do think about when I wake up.
Blessing Awodibu represents a different kind of weird in the bodybuilding world. His unusual nature comes from his incredible size, his distinctive training methods, and his absolutely hilarious antics that have earned him a devoted following across social media platforms. Known for his monstrous physique and humorous antics, such as working out in horse face masks and flexing for CCTV cameras, Blessing has carved out a unique niche in the bodybuilding community. What makes Blessing's physique particularly striking is the sheer scale of his muscle development. We're talking about a man whose muscle mass is so extreme that he looks like he belongs in a comic book rather than in real life. His shoulders span what seems like an impossible width. His arms are thick as tree trunks, and his overall presence is so commanding that he literally changes the energy of any room he enters. But Blessing's appeal goes far beyond just his physical appearance. His personality is what truly sets him apart from other massive bodybuilders. Where many extreme bodybuilders can appear intimidating or unapproachable, Blessing has cultivated an image that's equal parts monstrous and endearing. His social media presence is filled with content that showcases not just his incredible physique, but also his sense of humor, his playful nature, and his genuine love for entertaining his audience.
You know, if you look through my Instagram, you won't be seeing like crazy lifting. You see some cool pictures, you see some, but not like intense bodybuilding stuff, and a lot of skits, a lot of funny stuff.
The horseface mask workouts became one of Blessing's signature moves, creating viral content that introduced him to audiences far beyond the traditional bodybuilding community. These weren't just publicity stunts, they were genuine expressions of his personality, demonstrating that even someone with such an extreme physique could maintain a sense of playfulness and humor about their appearance. His habit of flexing for CCTV cameras whenever he encountered them became another trademark behavior that endeared him to fans. This wasn't vanity, it was pure entertainment, a way of acknowledging that his appearance was so unusual that it demanded attention, and rather than being self-conscious about it, he chose to embrace it fully and turn it into a source of joy for others. What's particularly impressive about Blessing's approach is how he's managed to build a career and a brand around his unusual physique without relying on the dangerous shortcuts that have characterized so many other entries on this list.
When it comes to training and being a gym bro, I do not play around, man.
His size appears to be the result of dedicated training, proper nutrition, and likely some pharmaceutical assistance that falls within the accepted norms of competitive bodybuilding, rather than the extreme synthetic enhancements that have defined other unusual bodybuilders. Mustafa Ismail. Landing at number 7, we encounter the controversial figure of Mustafa Ismail, known as the Egyptian Popeye, whose story represents one of the most significant controversies in the world of official bodybuilding records, and the ongoing debate about what constitutes legitimate muscle development versus artificial enhancement. Mustafa held the Guinness World Record for the largest upper arms in 2012 at an incredible 31 inches, a measurement that seemed to defy everything we thought we knew about human muscle development. To put this in perspective, his arms were larger than the waist measurements of most adult men, creating a visual impact that was both impressive and deeply concerning to anyone familiar with natural bodybuilding progression. The initial recognition of his record was a moment of celebration for Mustafa, who had achieved something that seemed impossible: official recognition for having the largest arms in the world. For a brief period, he stood as the undisputed champion of arm development, a title that brought him international attention and established him as a unique figure in the bodybuilding world.
I eat a lot of protein and my nutrition based on a lot of protein and carbohydrates. Plus, my genes help me.
However, the celebration was short-lived. The title was rescinded due to suspected drug use, creating a scandal that reverberated throughout the bodybuilding community and raised serious questions about the verification processes used for such records. The rescission wasn't just about losing a title. It was about the fundamental question of what constitutes legitimate muscle development. What made Mustafa's situation particularly complex was the visual evidence of his physique. His arms didn't just look large, they looked unnaturally smooth, disproportionate to his frame, and inconsistent with the patterns typically seen in natural muscle development. The texture and shape of his muscle tissue raised questions among experts about whether traditional training methods could realistically produce such results. The record disqualification sparked debates about fairness in bodybuilding, raising questions about whether current verification processes are adequate for detecting various forms of enhancement. The case highlighted the need for more sophisticated testing methods and clearer guidelines about what constitutes acceptable versus unacceptable forms of physique enhancement. Valdir Salgado. At number 6, we encounter the tragic story of Valdir Salgado, a Brazilian bodybuilder whose pursuit of extreme muscle development through synthetic enhancement ultimately led to consequences that serve as a stark reminder of the dangers inherent in the world of artificial muscle enhancement.
Estamos me envolvendo principalmente com droga, né? Você perder tipo peso, né? Aí o povo começou a me colocar tipo apelido, cachorro magro, caveirinha. Aí eu decidi mudar de vida.
Valdir Salgado was a Brazilian bodybuilder who became known for his use of synthol to achieve dramatic muscle enhancement, creating a physique that drew attention for its unusual appearance and massive proportions. Valdir, who proudly used synthol to enhance his physique, passed away in July 2022 due to complications likely related to his lifestyle, marking a tragic end to a story that had captivated and concerned the bodybuilding community for years. What set Valdir apart from other synthol users was his open embrace of the enhancement method. While many bodybuilders who use synthetic muscle enhancement try to hide or downplay their use of such substances, Valdir was remarkably transparent about his approach to physique development. This honesty made him a unique figure in the bodybuilding world, where discussions about enhancement methods are often shrouded in secrecy and denial.
Bem, Sintol, você compra tranquilo na farmácia porque não precisa de receita. Não é proibido, mas é produto para animal.
What made Valdir's story particularly poignant was his apparent dedication to his chosen path despite the obvious risks. He continued using synthol and maintaining his extreme physique, even as concerns mounted about the long-term health consequences of such practices.
There's some inflammatory process in your body. My feeling is that this is coming from the products that you've injected. But more concerning was the MRI.
This dedication, while admirable in terms of commitment, highlighted the psychological aspects of extreme body modification and the difficulty individuals face in abandoning practices that have become central to their identity. Valdir's death in July 2022 sent shockwaves through the bodybuilding community, particularly among those who had followed his journey and witnessed his transformation over the years. The circumstances surrounding his death, while not definitively linked to his synthol use, raised serious questions about the long-term viability of extreme synthetic enhancement practices. Greg Valentino. At number 5, we encounter one of the most infamous and medically shocking stories in bodybuilding history, Greg Valentino, whose extreme use of steroids led to a medical emergency so dramatic and disturbing that it became legendary in bodybuilding circles and continues to serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of excessive pharmaceutical enhancement.
Dude, I trained 23 years natural without taking steroids. But when you take steroids, it makes your body more of a machine. You're bigger, you're faster, you're stronger.
Greg Valentino became famous for his steroid use, developing 28-inch biceps that seemed to defy natural muscle development. But Valentino's story isn't just about achieving extreme size. It's about what happened when that pursuit of size went catastrophically wrong, resulting in a medical emergency that was both horrifying and educational for the bodybuilding community. The development of Valentino's 28-inch biceps was the result of years of extreme steroid use, but the method he used to achieve this size was particularly dangerous. Rather than relying solely on systematic training and traditional steroid cycles, Valentino engaged in practices that pushed his body far beyond its natural limits, creating muscle tissue that was more synthetic than natural.
I shot steroids locally. Now, I was taking 6,000 milligrams a day, a week. So I was taking a full bottle of testosterone on Monday, a full bottle of testosterone on Wednesday, and a full bottle on Friday.
The dramatic turning point in Valentino's story came when he suffered a severe infection that caused his arm to burst in the hospital. This wasn't just a minor medical complication. This was a catastrophic failure of his artificially enhanced muscle tissue that required emergency medical intervention and created a situation that was both life-threatening and deeply disturbing to witness. The image of Valentino's arm bursting became one of the most shocking and talked about incidents in bodybuilding history. Medical professionals who treated him described the situation as unlike anything they had previously encountered, with infected muscle tissue that had been so artificially enhanced that it had lost its natural structural integrity. What made Valentino's case particularly significant was how openly he discussed his experience after the medical emergency. Rather than hiding from the incident or downplaying its significance, he became an advocate for awareness about the dangers of extreme steroid use.
Listen, don't do what I did. You know what I mean? I overdid it, absolutely. You know what I mean? I would never do that again.
His case is often cited in discussions about the risks of performance-enhancing drugs, serving as a real-world example of what can happen when enhancement practices are taken to dangerous extremes. Sasha Szpak. At number 4, we encounter perhaps the most extreme example of body modification in bodybuilding history. Sasha Szpak, a Russian bodybuilder whose transformation goes so far beyond traditional muscle development that he represents an entirely different category of human physical modification.
Поскольку захотелось выглядеть по-другому не для того, чтобы обращали внимание, а потому что больше сам не хотел выглядеть так, как...
Often cited as possibly the weirdest bodybuilder on the planet, Sasha underwent extensive body modifications beyond traditional bodybuilding, creating an appearance that challenges every conventional understanding of what a human body can become. His transformation represents the ultimate fusion of bodybuilding, body modification, and performance art.
Меня не устраивала форма глаз, меня не устраивала форма бровей, меня не устраивала форма носа.
The scope of Sasha's modifications is truly breathtaking in its extremity. His transformation includes cosmetic surgeries, steroids, tattoos, fangs, tattooed eyeshadow, silicone chest implants, and teardrop-shaped nipples. Each of these modifications alone would be considered extreme, but together they create a transformation that is genuinely unprecedented in the bodybuilding world. The fangs represent one of the most dramatic aspects of Sasha's transformation, changing not just his appearance, but his entire facial structure and the way he interacts with the world. These aren't temporary cosmetic additions. They're permanent modifications that affect his speech, his eating, and his overall facial expression, creating a vampire-like appearance that completely alters his human characteristics. Perhaps most shocking are the silicone chest implants and teardrop-shaped nipples, modifications that represent a complete departure from traditional masculine bodybuilding aesthetics. These changes create a body that doesn't conform to any conventional gender presentation, instead creating something entirely unique and unprecedented. What makes Sasha's transformation particularly fascinating is how it represents the ultimate expression of body autonomy and self-determination. While many of the other bodybuilders on this list achieved their unusual appearances through methods that were primarily about size enhancement, Sasha's modifications are clearly about creating a specific aesthetic vision that exists entirely outside conventional beauty standards. His unique appearance sets him apart from conventional bodybuilders, creating a category of one in the world of extreme body modification. His transformation raises profound questions about the limits of human self-modification and the ways in which individuals can choose to present themselves to the world. Kirill Tereshin. At number 3, we encounter one of the most dramatic and ultimately redemptive stories in the world of extreme bodybuilding. Kirill Tereshin, known as the Russian Popeye, whose journey from dangerous synthetic enhancement to surgical intervention represents both the allure and the ultimate consequences of shortcuts in muscle development.
Инъекции я ставил изначально по чуть-чуть, потом начал увеличивать дозировки. Я именно хочу, чтобы у меня тело было как у Халка, чем у бодибилдеров.
Dubbed Russian Popeye, Tereshin injected 3 liters of synthol into each arm, achieving 24-inch biceps that created a truly shocking visual impact. The sheer volume of synthol used in this transformation is staggering. We're talking about 6 liters of synthetic oil pumped into his arms, creating a physique that looked more like a cartoon character than a human being.
На данный момент руки у меня самые большие в России.
The scale of his enhancement was so extreme that it created proportions that seemed to defy basic human anatomy. His biceps became so large that they appeared to have a life of their own, creating a silhouette that was deeply concerning. What made Tereshin's story particularly significant was the rapid progression of his transformation. Unlike bodybuilders who spend years gradually building muscle through training and traditional enhancement methods, Tereshin achieved his extreme size in a matter of months through repeated synthol injections. This rapid transformation created a dramatic before and after comparison that shocked audiences worldwide.
Бывало, мне так говорили, что это некрасиво. Ну, для всех людей это некрасиво. Лично для меня это, красиво, и мне это нравится.
The medical complications that arose from Tereshin's extreme synthol use were severe and potentially life-threatening. His extreme appearance led to surgery to remove the synthol, a procedure that was both medically necessary and technically challenging. The removal of such large volumes of synthetic oil from muscle tissue required specialized surgical techniques and carried significant risks. The surgery itself became a media event, with Tereshin's medical team documenting the procedure and the challenges involved in removing years of synthol buildup from his muscle tissue. The images and videos videos from his surgery provided a graphic illustration of what synthol actually does to human muscle tissue, showing how the synthetic oil creates pockets and disrupts normal muscle structure. What makes Tereshin's story particularly powerful is his transformation from advocate to cautionary tale. He now warns others about the dangers of synthol use, using his experience to educate others about the risks involved in synthetic muscle enhancement. His willingness to share his story, including the painful process of surgical removal, has made him an important voice in discussions about bodybuilding safety. Arlindo de Souza. At number 2, we encounter Arlindo de Souza, known as Montanha, the Mountain, whose story represents one of the most extreme and medically dangerous examples of synthol abuse in bodybuilding history. His transformation created a physique so unusual and potentially life-threatening that it became a defining example of how far individuals will go in pursuit of extreme muscle size.
Cada vez quando eu tumbava, eu queria mais. Para mim não tinha limite.
Known as the Mountain, this Brazilian bodybuilder openly admitted to using synthol, resulting in 29-inch biceps that looked disproportionate to the rest of his body. The scale of de Souza's transformation was truly staggering. His arms achieved proportions that seemed to belong to a different species entirely, creating a visual impact that was both fascinating and deeply disturbing. What made de Souza's case particularly significant was his complete openness about his synthol use. While many bodybuilders who use synthetic enhancement methods attempt to hide or downplay their use of such substances, de Souza was remarkably transparent about his approach to muscle development.
Aí me deu. Falei, toma isso aí vai crescer a noite por dia. Aí botou na seringa, tirou o ar, botou no braço, aplicou. Ele incha na hora.
The medical implications of de Souza's extreme synthol use were severe and ongoing. His health deteriorated, with doctors refusing treatment unless critical, creating a situation where his pursuit of extreme muscle size had effectively made him a medical pariah. The refusal of medical professionals to treat him except in emergency situations highlighted the severity of his condition and the professional concerns about the long-term consequences of his enhancement practices. The visual impact of de Souza's 29-inch biceps cannot be overstated. His arms didn't just look large, they looked like they had been inflated with air, creating smooth, rounded contours that bore no resemblance to natural muscle tissue. The disproportionate size of his arms compared to the rest of his body created a silhouette that was genuinely shocking to anyone who encountered him. De Souza's story represents the ultimate expression of the synthol phenomenon in bodybuilding, demonstrating both the dramatic visual results that can be achieved through synthetic enhancement and the severe consequences that can result from such extreme practices. Romario dos Santos Alves. At number 1, we encounter the most shocking, dangerous, and ultimately redemptive story on our entire list. Romario dos Santos Alves, a Brazilian bodybuilder whose pursuit of a Hulk-like physique through extreme synthol use nearly cost him his arms, his health, and his life, creating a cautionary tale that has become legendary in the bodybuilding world.
Chegando lá na academia, vi uns caras muito grandes, fortes, braços enormes, e eu comecei a se aproximar deles e fazer amizade com os caras. E foi onde eles me apresentou o synthol.
Romario dos Santos Alves gained notoriety for using synthol to inflate his biceps to an unnatural 25 inches, giving them a cartoonish appearance. But the numbers alone don't capture the full impact of his transformation. His arms literally looked like they belonged in a comic book, with proportions so extreme that they seemed to defy basic human anatomy. The cartoonish quality of his appearance earned him comparisons to the Hulk, but the reality was far more dangerous than any comic book fantasy. What made Alves' story particularly dramatic was how close he came to losing everything in pursuit of his extreme physique. His pursuit of a Hulk-like physique nearly cost him his arms due to health complications from synthol injections. The medical complications that arose from his extreme synthol use were severe and potentially life-threatening, creating a situation where his arms had to be surgically drained and treated to prevent amputation.
O médico me falou assim: esse braço seu vai ter que amputar o seu braço. O seu músculo está todo empedrado, a sua estrutura muscular está toda destruída. E tá dando uma necrose no seu braço. O único jeito que tem é amputar.
The medical emergency that Alves faced was genuinely terrifying. The synthol in his arms had created infections and tissue damage so severe that medical professionals warned him that amputation might be necessary to save his life. The prospect of losing his arms, the very body parts he had been so obsessed with enhancing, created a crisis that forced him to confront the reality of his situation. The psychological journey that Alves underwent during his medical crisis was equally dramatic. The realization that his pursuit of extreme muscle size had put his life at risk created a moment of clarity clarity that changed his entire perspective on bodybuilding and body modification. The fear of losing his arms forced him to confront the obsessive nature of his enhancement practices and the dangerous path he had been following. What makes Alv's story particularly powerful is his transformation from advocate to cautionary tale. He has since stopped using synthol and advocates against it, using his experience to educate others about the dangers of synthetic muscle enhancement.
Eu tenho vontade de usar o Synthol, mas devido às complicações que ele me deu, eu desisto.
His willingness to share his story, including the painful process of recovery and the psychological challenges he faced, has made him an important voice in discussions about bodybuilding safety and the dangers of shortcuts in muscle development. And with that, we've come to the end of this deep dive. For more juicy content like this, smash that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and check out the cards showing on your screen for more videos. Don't forget to comment your thoughts below.